kind of wild when you stop and think about it, right? How much time and energy goes into figuring out what we want, like what we as consumers actually want.
It really
Like
is.
companies are constantly trying to get inside our heads.
Hmm.
What drives our decisions, what makes us choose one product over another, and ultimately what makes us want to spend our hard-earned cash. And today, we're going to take a deep dive into that process,
Yeah,
into the world of marketing insights.
exactly.
We've got some excerpts from a textbook chapter,
Okay.
and this chapter is all about how companies collect information and then use it to try and predict what we'll be buying next.
It's fascinating stuff because it really goes beyond just sort of like, gathering data.
Right.
This is about understanding consumer psychology,
Oh, wow.
the motivations, the values, even like the subconscious desires that shape our choices.
So it's not just about knowing our age, our income, where we live.
Right.
It's about understanding why we make the choices we do.
Exactly. And the textbook uses this really great example of Campbell's Soup,
Right.
the classic American brand.
Yeah, so you've got this iconic brand, but sales are slipping.
Right.
They need to figure out how to connect with a new generation of consumers.
Millennials.
Exactly, the millennials.
Okay, I can see how that would be a challenge.
Yeah,
Millennials are known for their diverse tastes
yeah.
and, well, maybe not their love of traditional cooking.
Yeah, that's exactly the insight that Campbell uncovered.
Okay.
They went beyond traditional market research like surveys and focus groups, and they actually sent executives out to live with and eat with millennials.
Oh, wow.
They called them live-alongs and eat-alongs.
Live-alongs, eat-alongs.
Yeah.
Talk about getting up close and personal with your target market.
Right.
What did they learn from that experience?
Well, they discovered that millennials loved experimenting with different global flavors,
Okay.
but often lacked the time or skills to cook elaborate meals,
Makes sense.
right? So that's how Campbell's Ghost Soup couches were born.
Ah.
Microwavable, globally inspired flavors designed for convenience.
So the key takeaway here is that companies can't just rely on basic demographics, right?
Right.
They need to really understand the lifestyle, the needs of their target audience.
Mhm.
Almost like anthropologists studying a new culture.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the happenings, the context of people's lives,
Right.
not just the cold, hard data.
Okay, speaking of digging for information,
Yeah.
before we had the internet and all this data at our
Yeah.
fingertips, things were a little bit more, shall we say, old school.
Right.
The textbook tells this hilarious story about T. Boone Pickens,
Oh, okay.
the oil tycoon.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know this story.
I do. Pickens was famous for his competitive intelligence gathering techniques.
I bet.
He once had someone stationed like a half-mile away from a competitor's drilling operation
What?
with field glasses counting the drill pipes to estimate the depth of the well.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine?
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about going the extra mile for market research.
Really is.
It's amazing the effort companies put in to get an edge,
Yeah.
even if it involves binoculars and a little bit of espionage.
It highlights the importance of staying ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah.
Understanding what's happening in the market before it becomes obvious to everyone else.
And thankfully, these days, we have a lot more tools at our disposal.
Absolutely.
The internet has essentially turned the world into one giant focus group.
Right.
Reviews, blogs, social media, it's all out there just waiting to be analyzed.
It's incredible how much information is publicly available, and companies are using sophisticated tools to track conversations, analyze sentiment, and even predict emerging trends just based on what people are saying online.
It makes you wonder how much our online activity is shaping the products and services we see,
Right.
that are advertised to us.
Absolutely.
But it's not just a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
The textbook also points out some really interesting regional differences in consumer behavior.
Yeah,
Did you know that the Irish college consume the most chocolate per capita?
I did. It's true.
And Seattle buys the most sunglasses.
It's fascinating.
These little tidbits might seem random, but they really illustrate how much geography, culture, even climate, can influence what people buy.
For sure.
So you're telling me that where I live and the things I'm interested in actually shape how companies target me with their products.
Absolutely.
It's almost like a personalized marketing map based on my location and demographic.
Exactly. And it raises a really interesting question.
Yeah.
With so much information available, are we comfortable with that level of personalization?
Right.
Is it helpful and convenient, or is it starting to feel a little creepy?
That's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
But beyond where we live and our basic demographics,
Really?
things get even more complex. It's not just about age and income anymore.
Right.
The way we live is changing. Fewer traditional families, more single-person households.
Hmm.
How are companies keeping up with these shifts?
They're paying close attention and adapting their strategies.
Okay.
Think about the rise of meal kit services catering to busy professionals, or the explosion of online dating apps designed for specific demographics.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding these social and cultural shifts and tailoring products and marketing to those specific needs and lifestyles.
So it's like companies are trying to become mind readers,
Yeah.
anticipating our next purchase before we even think about it.
Right.
But it's not just about external factors.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a whole layer of personal values that influences what we buy,
Hmm.
even something as basic as a can of soup.
Values play a huge role, and marketers are getting better at recognizing that.
Okay.
For instance, think about the impact of health and nutrition trends on the food industry, or
Right.
the growing demand for green and sustainable products.
Yeah.
These values shape how we see brands and absolutely influence our purchasing decisions.
It's like how Macaroni Grill revamped their entire menu,
Yes.
and people started criticizing it for being unhealthy.
Right.
They added lighter options to appeal to a more health-conscious consumer.
Exactly. It's a classic example of companies adapting to those shifting consumer values.
Okay.
And it's not just about jumping on the latest trend. It's about understanding the core values driving those trends.
Got it.
What makes people tick? What do they care about?
And of course, we can't talk about trends without addressing the elephant in the room, technology.
Oh, yeah.
It's changing everything at an accelerating pace,
Right.
and marketing is no exception.
Technology really is a double-edged sword,
Right.
It creates incredible opportunities for innovation, but it also disrupts existing markets.
Sure.
And can even have unintended consequences on our behavior and attention spans.
The textbook uses the example of the iPad, which, took the world by storm,
Mm-hmm.
but it also contributed to the decline of companies like Tower Records, who failed to adapt to the digital music revolution.
Yeah, it's a classic case of adapt or die in the face of technological change.
Right.
And it shows how crucial it is to understand not just the technology itself, but also how it impacts consumer behavior and the entire market.
Okay, so we've talked about understanding consumers,
Yeah.
recognizing trends, even spying on competitors.
Right.
But with all this talk about predicting the future, how do companies actually forecast demand?
Well,
Do they have a crystal ball hidden away
well,
somewhere?
I haven't seen the crystal ball yet.
Okay.
In reality, it's a mix of art and science,
Yeah.
Companies use historical data,
Okay.
look at market trends, and make some educated guesses to try to predict future sales.
The textbook mentions something called the Delphi method,
Oh, yeah.
where a group of experts keep refining their predictions through multiple rounds of feedback.
Right.
Like a high-stakes brainstorming session for the future.
It's a process, and it's always evolving.
Okay.
Forecasts are adjusted based on new information and those ever-changing market conditions.
So it's not about getting it perfectly right.
Right.
It's about being flexible and responding to the shifts as they happen.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about crunching numbers, right?
Yeah.
You can learn a lot from good old-fashioned consumer research,
Yeah.
talking to people,
Hmm.
understanding their needs and desires.
Absolutely. Surveys, focus groups, even just reading online reviews and listening to what people are saying on social media
Right.
can provide incredible insights into what consumers are thinking, feeling, and planning to buy.
So it's like tapping into the collective wisdom of the crowd,
Yeah,
getting a sense of the pulse of the market.
exactly.
But what about when a company is launching something brand new?
Right.
How do they know if it's going to be a hit or a flop?
That's where market testing comes in.
Okay.
It's like a dress rehearsal before opening night,
Okay.
giving companies a chance to get real-world feedback from consumers
Makes sense.
before they invest heavily in production and marketing.
I can see how that would be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
You can make adjustments early on, maybe tweak the product or the messaging,
Mm.
or even completely scrap the idea if it's clear it's not going to resonate with people.
Exactly. It's much better to course correct early than to realize you've made a costly mistake after it's too late.
For sure. For sure. And
Right.
speaking of cost, let's talk about measuring marketing productivity.
Okay.
It's not always easy to quantify the impact of your marketing efforts, even when you feel like you're doing a great job.
Right. It feels like one of those I know it when I see it situation.
right.
You can sense that a brilliant campaign is having an impact, but how do you actually put a dollar figure on that?
Right.
That's the challenge for marketers. And the textbook goes into this a bit.
Okay.
There are tools and techniques that help us measure effectiveness,
Okay.
but it's not an exact science.
It talks about using marketing metrics, which are essentially a way to measure performance.
Right.
Things like brand awareness,
Mm.
customer satisfaction, and even just how many people visit your website.
Right. These are valuable indicators of whether your marketing is working.
Okay.
And by tracking these metrics over time,
Yeah.
you can see how your campaigns are impacting consumer perceptions and behavior.
Right. So you can get a sense of whether people are noticing your brand, whether they like what they see,
Yeah,
and whether they're actually engaging with your message.
absolutely.
But what about the bottom line?
Okay.
How do you connect the dots between marketing spending and actual sales?
That's where something called marketing mix modeling comes into play.
Marketing mix modeling.
Yeah, it's a statistical technique that analyzes data from multiple sources.
Okay.
Sales figures, advertising expenditures, promotional activities, even things like pricing changes and distribution channels.
Wow.
It's basically trying to figure out which marketing activities are having the biggest impact on revenue.
So it's like a financial detective sifting through the clues
Exactly.
to figure out what's really driving sales.
Right.
Once you know that, then you can allocate your resources to the things that are working best.
Exactly. It's all about optimizing your marketing mix to get the biggest bang for your buck.
Right. But with so much data to track and analyze, how do companies stay organized
Yes.
and make sense of it all?
That's a great question.
It seems like you'd need a whole team of data analysts just to keep up with everything.
Well, that's where marketing dashboards come in.
Okay.
They're visual representations of key marketing metrics,
Okay.
kind of like the instrument panel in a car.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's like a control center for your marketing efforts,
Right.
giving you a real-time view of what's working and what's not.
Exactly. And with digital marketing, these dashboards have become incredibly sophisticated.
Okay.
They track website traffic, social media engagement, and even the performance of individual online ads.
Wow.
It's a lot of data, but it's incredibly valuable when you can harness it effectively.
So we've got the data, the insights, the metrics, the dashboards,
Mm-hmm.
but let's not forget about the human element.
Absolutely.
After all, marketing is about connecting with people,
Right.
understanding their needs,
Yeah.
and building relationships.
Couldn't agree more. All the data in the world won't help if you don't have a genuine understanding of your target audience, their motivations, their aspirations, and even their fears and frustrations.
Okay.
That's where things like ethnographic research and qualitative methods come in.
Yeah.
They go beyond the numbers and give you a deeper understanding of people's lived experiences.
It's like the difference between knowing the demographics of a city and actually walking its streets, talking to its residents, experiencing its culture.
Exactly. By combining those quantitative and qualitative approaches, marketers can paint a richer, more nuanced picture of their target market and create more effective and impactful marketing campaigns.
We've covered so much ground today, from gathering insights and predicting demand to measuring effectiveness and using technology to understand the market.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, there's one more fascinating concept we need to explore.
Okay.
It's called design thinking,
Oh, yeah.
and it's all about putting the consumer at the heart of the product development process.
Is.
Design thinking.
Yeah.
It sounds more like something you'd hear in an art school than a marketing textbook.
All right.
But I have a feeling this is where those light bulb moments happen,
Absolutely.
when a product just clicks with you on a deeper level.
It really is.
You're right.
Design thinking is all about taking a human-centered approach.
Okay.
It's about putting yourself in the shoes of the consumer and really understanding their needs and desires.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right.
Give me the design thinking 101 breakdown.
So imagine you're designing a new smartphone.
Okay.
Instead of just focusing on the technical specs and all the bells and whistles, you start by deeply understanding how people actually use their phones.
Okay.
You observe their habits. You listen to their frustrations. You even try to anticipate those needs they might not even realize they have.
So you're basically becoming a smartphone anthropologist,
Yeah,
immersing yourself in the user's world.
that's a great way to put it. And then you take all those insights and use them to guide the design process.
Okay.
The goal is to create a product that's not just functional, but also intuitive, enjoyable to use, even emotionally resonant.
Okay. I'm starting to see the connection.
Yeah.
But how does this all tie back to marketing?
Well, marketing and design thinking go hand in hand.
Yeah.
When you understand the consumer so deeply, you can create products that are truly desirable
Right.
and then craft marketing messages that speak to those deep-seated needs and desires.
Our textbook highlights a company called IDEO,
Okay.
a design firm that's famous for this innovative, human-centered approach.
IDEO is a fantastic example of design thinking in action.
Yeah.
They've designed everything from award-winning computer mice to life-saving medical devices. And they always start with a deep understanding of the user.
They even redesigned the classic wooden classroom chair.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of design thinking.
Right.
It can be applied to any product or service, from the
Yeah.
everyday to the extraordinary.
The textbook specifically mentions their work with Marriott hotels.
Oh, yeah.
They helped redesign the Courtyard brand to appeal to a younger generation of travelers.
That's a great case study.
Yeah.
IDEO discovered that younger travelers were craving more social interaction.
Okay. And a sense of community in their hotel experience.
Okay.
They also wanted better technology integration and more flexible dining options.
So how did they translate those insights into the actual design of the hotel?
They completely revamped the hotel lobbies, creating these inviting spaces with comfortable seating, communal tables, even outdoor fire pits.
Wow.
They also made sure the technology was up to par with free Wi-Fi and plenty of charging stations.
Of course.
And they introduced grab-and-go food options that were available 24/7.
It sounds like they really thought about what those modern travelers actually wanted
It is.
and created a hotel that catered to their needs.
Exactly. And by focusing on the user experience,
Right.
they were able to completely transform the Courtyard brand and attract a whole new generation of loyal customers.
It's amazing how powerful a human-centered approach can be.
It is.
But design thinking isn't just about making things look pretty or feel good.
Right.
It's also about solving real problems and creating products that make people's lives better. Absolutely. Take the example of the heart defibrillator that IDEO designed.
Yeah.
They realized that people in a medical emergency often panic
Right.
and forget their training.
Oh, yeah.
So they designed a defibrillator that actually talks you through the process,
Oh.
providing clear instructions and reassurance.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example of how design thinking can be used to create products that are not only functional, but also emotionally supportive.
It really highlights the importance of empathy in the design process.
Right.
By understanding the emotional state of the user in that incredibly stressful moment,
Yeah.
IDEO was able to create a product that could potentially save lives.
Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from gathering those initial insights to forecasting demand, from measuring marketing's impact to embracing design thinking. It's clear that companies are going to great lengths to understand their customers.
And it's not just about increasing sales and profits.
Right.
It's about creating products and services that people genuinely want and need. Things that make their lives better and, as we've seen, even have the potential to save lives.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about using marketing for good, not just for the bottom line.
Exactly.
So the next time you see an ad or buy a product or even just interact with a brand, take a moment to consider all the research and strategy, the insights, and the empathy that went into creating that experience. You might be surprised by what you discover.
Absolutely. They're paying close attention and adapting their strategies.
Okay.
Think about the rise of meal kit services catering to busy professionals,
Right.
or the explosion of online dating apps designed for specific demographics.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding these social and cultural shifts and tailoring products and marketing to those specific needs and lifestyles.
So it's like companies are trying to become mind readers,
Yeah.
anticipating our next purchase before we even think about it.
Right.
But it's not just about external factors, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole layer of personal values
Yeah.
that influences what we buy.
Mm-hmm.
Even something as basic as a can of soup.
Values play a huge role, and marketers are getting better at recognizing that.
Right.
For instance, think about the impact of health and nutrition trends on the food industry,
Right.
or the growing demand for green and sustainable products.
Right.
These values shape how we see brands and absolutely influence our purchasing decisions.
It's like how Macaroni Grill revamped their entire menu
Yes.
when people started criticizing it for being unhealthy.
All right.
They added lighter options to appeal to a more health-conscious consumer.
Exactly. It's a classic example of companies adapting to those shifting consumer values.
Okay.
And it's not just about jumping on the latest trend. It's about understanding the core values driving those trends.
Got it.
What makes people tick? What do they care about?
And of course, we can't talk about trends without addressing the elephant in the room technology.
Oh, yeah.
It's changing everything at an accelerating pace,
Right.
and marketing is no exception.
Technology really is a double-edged sword, you know?
Right.
It creates incredible opportunities for innovation, but it also disrupts existing markets
Sure.
and can even have unintended consequences on our behavior and attention spans.
The textbook uses the example of the iPad, which, took the world by storm.
Mm-hmm.
But it also contributed to the decline of companies like Tower Records, who failed to adapt to the digital music revolution.
Yeah, it's a classic case of adapt or die in the face of technological change.
Right.
And it shows how crucial it is to understand not just the technology itself, but also how it impacts consumer behavior and the entire market. And it shows how crucial it is to understand not just the technology itself, but also how it impacts consumer behavior and the entire market.
Okay, so we've talked about understanding consumers,
Yeah.
recognizing trends, even spying on competitors.
Right.
But with all this talk about predicting the future, how do companies actually forecast demand? Do they have a crystal ball hidden away somewhere?
Well, I haven't seen the crystal ball yet.
Okay.
In reality, it's a mix of art and science,
Yeah.
Companies use historical data.
And go look at market trends and make some educated guesses to try to predict future sales.
The textbook mentions something called the Delphi method,
Oh, yeah.
where a group of experts keep refining their predictions through multiple rounds of feedback.
Right.
It's like a high-stakes brainstorming session for the future.
It is. It's a process, and it's always evolving.
Okay.
Forecasts are adjusted based on new information and those ever-changing market conditions.
So it's not about getting it perfectly right.
Right.
It's about being flexible and responding to the shifts as they happen.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about crunching numbers, right?
Right.
You can learn a lot from good old-fashioned consumer research,
Yeah,
talking to people, understanding their needs and desires.
absolutely. Surveys, focus groups, even just reading online reviews and listening to what people are saying on social media
Right.
can provide incredible insights into what consumers are thinking, feeling, and planning to buy.
So it's like tapping into the collective wisdom of the crowd,
Yeah.
getting a sense of the pulse of the market. Exactly.
But what about when a company is launching something brand new?
Right.
How do they know if it's going to be a hit or a flop?
That's where market testing comes in.
Okay.
It's like a dress rehearsal before opening night,
Okay.
giving companies a chance to get real-world feedback from consumers
Makes sense.
before they invest heavily in production and marketing.
I can see how that would be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
You can make adjustments early on, maybe tweak the product or the messaging,
Mm-hmm.
or even completely scrap the idea if it's clear it's not going to resonate with people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's much better to course correct early than to realize you've made a costly mistake after it's too late.
Right. And speaking of cost, let's talk about measuring marketing productivity.
Okay.
It's not always easy to quantify the impact of your marketing efforts, even when you feel like you're doing a great job.
Yeah, it feels like one of those I know it when I see it situations.
Exactly.
You can sense that a brilliant campaign is having an impact, but how do you actually put a dollar figure on that?
Right? Right.
That's the challenge for marketers, and the textbook goes into this a bit.
Okay.
There are tools and techniques that help us measure effectiveness,
Okay.
but it's not an exact science.
It talks about using marketing metrics,
Right.
which are essentially a way to measure performance.
Right.
Things like brand awareness, customer satisfaction, and even just how many people visit your website.
Right. These are valuable indicators of whether your marketing is working.
Okay.
And by tracking these metrics over time,
Yeah.
you can see how your campaigns are impacting consumer perceptions and behavior.
So you can get a sense of whether people are noticing your brand, whether they like what they see,
Yeah,
and whether they're actually engaging with your message.
absolutely.
But what about the bottom line?
Okay.
How do you connect the dots between marketing spending and actual sales?
That's where something called marketing mix modeling comes into play.
Marketing mix modeling.
Yeah, it's a statistical technique that analyzes data from multiple sources. Sales figures, advertising expenditures, promotional activities, even things like pricing changes and distribution channels.
Wow.
It's basically trying to figure out which marketing activities are having the biggest impact on revenue.
So it's like a financial detective sifting through the clues
Exactly.
to figure out what's really driving sales.
Right.
Once you know that, then you can allocate your resources to the things that are working best.
Exactly. It's all about optimizing your marketing mix to get the biggest bang for your buck.
But with so much data to track and analyze, how do companies stay organized
Right.
and make sense of it all?
That's a great question.
It seems like you'd need a whole team of data analysts just to keep up with everything.
Well, that's where marketing dashboards come in.
Okay.
They're visual representations of key marketing metrics,
Okay.
kind of like the instrument panel in a car.
I love that analogy.
Yeah,
It's like a control center for your marketing efforts,
right.
giving you a real-time view of what's working and what's not.
Exactly. And with digital marketing, these dashboards have become incredibly sophisticated.
Okay.
They track website traffic, social media engagement, and even the performance of individual online ads.
Wow.
It's a lot of data, but it's incredibly valuable when you can harness it effectively.
So we've got the data, the insights, the metrics, and the dashboards. But let's not forget about the human element. After all, marketing is about connecting with people,
Right.
understanding their needs,
Yeah.
and building relationships.
Couldn't agree more. All the data in the world won't help if you don't have a genuine understanding of your target audience,
Right.
their motivations, their aspirations, and even their fears and frustrations.
Okay.
That's where things like ethnographic research and qualitative methods come in.
Gotcha.
They go beyond the numbers and give you a deeper understanding of people's lived experiences.
It's like the difference between knowing the demographics of a city and actually walking its streets, talking to its residents, experiencing its culture.
Exactly. By combining those quantitative and qualitative approaches, marketers can paint a richer, more nuanced picture of their target market and create more effective and impactful marketing campaigns.
Well, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive, and it's clear that there's a lot more to marketing than meets the eye.
It's a constantly evolving field.
For sure. But one thing that remains constant is that it's all about understanding people.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's about connecting with your audience.
Exactly, and building relationships that go beyond just buying and selling.
Couldn't agree more.
So the next time you find yourself wondering why you're seeing a certain ad or why a particular product caught your eye, remember there's a whole world of marketing insights behind that experience.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe you'll even start to notice those insights at play in your own life.
And that's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.